like Jason Bourne? Do you like Jason Bourne, but French? Then perhaps you are a really big fan of 13 from Ubisoft. A 2000s FPS that had such a wonderful comic book style that got a bad remake that stripped it of that style. But did you know that Ubisoft isn't the only reason this game is French? It's also based on French comics. Ooh, double French! Oh, bon Dieu. But first, let's talk a little bit about Franco-Belgian comics. You see, unlike American comics, who had to wait till the 21st century to reclaim their position in pop culture, thanks to a 1950s moral panic that damaged the comic book industry forever, France and Belgian comics never had that problem. They kept putting out great comics to great success, like Asterix, Smurfs, Valerian, and Tintin. And in 1984, there would come a new Franco-Belgian comic icon. 13 created by writer Jean Van Ham and artist William Vance. The comic was inspired by the Bourne Identity. Further back. Closer, but a little further. There we go. Despite that initial inspiration, it quickly deviated with the conspiracy at hand. 13's fame would rise in Belgium and France. Reportedly, to hype up 2 volumes in 1990, they had an advertising campaign in theaters. But the advertising wouldn't stop there. The franchise showed up in lottery tickets, commemorative banknotes, promotional reprints from the French Rugby League Federation, and McDonald's, a TV movie followed by a TV series, and of course, video games. First, we would get Mystery 13 on the PC in 1997, where you play as a reporter looking for 13. Now, funnily enough, according to Dominique Sciemma, one of the developers on the project, I suggested to Francois that he CD-ROMize a book, which he would publish much later. A television advertising campaign would be prepared because, and this was Dragod's stroke of genius, it was forbidden at the time to advertise books on television, and this campaign for the game would cleverly and indirectly advertise the album. So basically, the reverse version of Hasbro advertising G.I. Joe comics instead of toys on TV in the 80s. But 13 was just getting started with adaptations. Jean Van Ham's other popular comic based on his now less popular prose, Largo Winch, got a TV series in 2001. Then, the very next year, Ubisoft would publish 2 Largo Winch games. But it would seem that they had their eyes on something much bigger. Ubisoft announced that they would be developing their first in-house first-person shooter with Jean Van Ham's 13. Perfect timing too, since the Bourne Identity just came out. Ubisoft Paris would develop the game, and this would be quite the genre shift for them, after only doing a few Rayman games and some racing sims. But everyone seemed eager to create this game and pay tribute to the comic.
For us in French and Belgium, 13 is a real classic comic book. It's like Asterix or Tintin equivalent. Everyone has read it. And for us it was really interesting because it's really a fascinating storyline. And also we like the idea of adapting a comic book into video games.
We're taking comics and we're taking the game and we're comparing them. And we were like, okay, can we have this effect in a video game? Yes, no.
The style of the comic book was really specific and really difficult to adapt. Just to give you an example, the backgrounds in the comic book are very simple. So for us, it was very, very difficult to respect the style and to build a world backgrounds and world levels into the game. So we tried to adapt it, and we took a look at many different comics books, specifically American ones.
I guess we have a mix of influences. We look to comics like 100 Bullets, like Frank Miller, Dark Knight, Powers. When you try to analyze them and the way they are built and organized and the layout of every page.
To see how they were built and how they were designed, and we readapted completely the style to create a new one, much more adapted to the video games.
13 is inspired by a French comic book series, so we worked with the original artist to design the characters and had the scriptwriter ensure that everything we did in the game was faithful to the original.
We wanted to give the player the feeling, like in the comic book, that they were amnesiac. Give the feeling, who can I trust? Who is good? Who is bad? I hope that the creators of the comic book are happy with what we've done. It is faithful to the original.
13 is a really unique first-person shooter. Unique because first it's a cel-shaded first-person shooter. Then because it has a very strong story, which is really unusual for this kind of game. When we first had the project, it was supposed to be a short and little project. The idea was to use this character we own, 13, which is really famous in France and Belgium, and to make a game about him in a year. But we wanted to do it better than other people, so we will do in a different way. Let's try to be different. It's our only chance to exist and to make a game that players will enjoy. From outside, it looks like it's very simple. You have a gun, you have enemies, and you kill. But making it is a lot more difficult. The second challenge was maybe to have people believe it could be made. When you tell to people we are going to make a first-person shooter in cel shading, people are saying, what for? A first-person shooter should be realistic. It was not a resistance, it was more a feeling like it will never work. If it hasn't been done before, it's because it doesn't work, and maybe some other people have tried and they have given up, saying, oh no, it won't work. And you know, video game is an industry where to exist, you need to be new, but to survive, you need to do what other people have done before. So it was more, it's not worth taking this risk than a resistance.
In fact, this was Ubi's first shooting game, so we had to buy in an outside engine, the Unreal Engine, which was used to make a lot of very well-known games. Once we had that in our hands, we worked on it for 2 years to add loads of tools to create an original graphic style. It was a dream come true. We were working on something that had never been done before. People often have this preconceived idea that the more drawn or cartoonish something looks, the easier it is to create. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
The challenge was to find a link from the 2D of the comic books and to bring that into 3D.
We added the cartoon effect to the characters. It gives a comic strip 2D look to a 3D object. This effect is achieved by adding a thin black line around the characters, which looks like a pencil line, and the textural effects also help to make it look sketched.
We use a specific technique to model the characters to provide the black lines and shadows on the characters. The graphic style is a fine convergence between 2D and 3D. The black outlines, the plain colors. We wanted to find something that reminds people of the comic book, but still makes the most of the fact that it's a 3D game.
For the cinematics, we wanted to keep this cartoon effect and push it even further. So we mixed the 3D with the 2D rendering, with an ultra-simplified decor like you find in comic books. The cel shading is greedy on memory, so we had to create characters who were limited to an average of 1,000 triangles. Since there are more than 60 characters, that meant quite a lot of work. It took up a year and a half of my life.
13 is groundbreaking because we did actually everything which was not supposed to be done for this kind of game. We want the game to be this way. We want you to see this character, to talk with this one, to do this and this and this, because it's an adventure more than a first-person shooter. And because the story is really important.
So how'd they do? Well, I'll be walking through the game with my first 5 volumes at hand, just to compare and contrast. And of course, I will be using my original Xbox to play this game because the remake is no good. Alright, we wash up on a beach, and hold on. Yeah, we're already starting off a bit different. Instead of the more main-like beaches that 13 washes up on, we get somewhere a little more generic. We trade all side characters near the beginning of Volume 1, aka Day of the Black Sun, for a lifeguard who pretty much dies immediately. Hey, I get it. Squishing multiple character roles into one character isn't new.
We simplified the story, removed some characters, added others.
But the great thing about the 13 comic is that even if the side character only has a few pages, they feel real. The characters who find and help 13 on the beach in the comic are Abe, Sally, their dog, and Martha. Abe and Sally are a kindly couple who lost their son to a war, while Martha is a former surgeon who lost her medical license and has a drinking problem. But 13's appearance improves all of their lives. For months, while 13 recovers from his injuries and tries to remember who he is, Abe and Sally treat him like the son they lost. Martha has a reason to live again. She gets sober and befriends the mystery man, even developing a crush on him despite her self-loathing. Unfortunately, 13 only has a tattoo of the Roman numeral 13 to go off of. But soon, he'll get more information. Tragedy strikes as the family dog is dead on the porch. Two men have attacked the house looking for 13, and he's gotta jump into action with skills he didn't know he had. Okay, we're caught up, and oh, that's neat! The first weapon you pick up is a throwing knife, referencing the clam knife 13 uses for his first kill we see. The game has a huge raid on the beach by an army of goons. The book has a quiet moment where 13 mourns the loss of these good people that took care of him, and he says goodbye to Martha. Martha unfortunately returns to drinking as he leaves. Since we've cut all the supporting characters from the beginning, we have to skip the wraparound ending from Volume 1. Skip it for some action! Woo! It's time to kill, kill, kill with some slightly clunky gameplay from this generation. Yeah, this doesn't exactly have the precision of Halo or even GoldenEye. Sometimes I feel like I'm missing targets, some targets feel too bullet spongy, but when the game clicks, it clicks. You can carry around an arsenal thanks to it having the classic weapon carry system of games like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, and pre-Activision James Bond games, in addition to a similar health and armor system, which can make for some very fun gunfights in single-player or multiplayer. It's very cool when you can kill a guy on a ledge and they fall down with his scream literally trailing behind him. It's cool when you get that headshot and comic panels do a close-up of what you just did. It's cool that enemies groan out their last breaths visually. One of the coolest parts of this game is before you're detected in stealth mode, footsteps will leave an automatopoeia on the ground, which is a perfect adaptation of a tool you use to understand a scene in a comic to a tool you use to understand the game better. Unfortunately, stealth can be hit or miss, and there is that 6th gen clunk, but it's good overall. But this is a comic book channel, so let's get back to that plot. We move on to look into that safety deposit box with this key we washed ashore with. The game skips any asking around and a more corrupt than usual cop who tries to steal 13's dirty money. We go to the bank and surprisingly,
Mr. Roland? It's been such a long time. I assume you want to access your safe?
the game keeps the very friendly clerk character. Instead of a tear gas, we get a massive explosion. That 3-page bank escape becomes an entire level. Skipping a little more, we're introduced to Colonel Amos, and he takes us into custody, revealing the big conspiracy that you have killed the President of the United States. JFK style. That's funny, I don't remember killing the President, so it must be a lie! In the comic, 13 jumps out a window to escape this nonsense. In the game, we get broken out by an early appearance from Lieutenant Jones, who doesn't show up until Volume 2, aka Where the Indian Walks. I know. It's Indigenous American. It's from 1980s Belgium, remember? But for now, we break out of the FBI and fight in a rooftop fight that feels like it's calling back to the fight that happens before 13 is caught in the comic. Hey, wait, what is that doing there?
And in fact, it's like 13 is like a James Bond, in fact, but he doesn't have any gadgets. He grabs whatever he can.
The hero is a kind of anti-James Bond. He isn't bristling with gadgetry. He gets by with whatever means he manages to come across. Some gameplays are based on this principle.
Yeah, that's not right. At no point does he ever use a remote grappling hook in these 5 volumes. Like, it's not the most unrealistic gadget, it's just kind of an odd decision given that everything else in this game is pretty common and realistic. Anyway, you make it out of there, and we gotta break out our commanding officer, General Ben Carrington. So more switch-ups of the order of the events happen because Carrington isn't arrested until Volume 5, Full Red. Also making early appearances in this level are McCall, first appearing in Volume 4, Spads, and William S. Stanwell, first appearing in Volume 5, Full Red. McCall, Stanwell, and the Spads come in early to take over a military base, and we get an early insight to what the overarching plan is. This base was invaded by this army, had every US military soldier killed, and replaced by the Spads, the Iron Fist in the attempted coup against America. Some of them wear distinctive red hats, and all of them have cult-like devotion to the idea of white supremacy, all originating from the group's secret leaders, the KKK. Ugh, Jesus, that's prophetic. Well, we've saved Carrington and...
Am I dreaming? My God, I can't believe it. My best man alive.
Holy shit, it's Batman himself.
Adam West, Adam West.
Yeah, since we've got our little trio together, we should probably talk about the voice acting. Something the team was very proud of. As previously mentioned, Adam West is fantastic as Ben Carrington.
The grunts are very difficult. And when you get shot and you're in pain, and this stuff is kind of tough to do. That's why I always bring an assistant to poke me with a saber or give me a cattle prod or something as I speak.
Then there's
rapper Eve.
Wanted to highlight Jones, which is a really original woman. She's a military woman. She's very she likes to fight. She's black and. She's flirting with 13 without being so clear with him, and she's really not the typical woman in a video game. She really has her own feeling and characters, and that's why we consider of having someone really with a good voice, a rap girl, Eve. That was really cool.
This is the worst.
Eve was a relatively big 2000s musician, and if you're a nerd like me, the role you most remember her for is Talon from MTV's Spider-Man the New Animated Series. She does a good job here as Jones. I think that we miss out on a lot of Jones' great moments from the comics specifically because the game is centered entirely on 13. And how is his voice acting?
Well then, who am I? Jones, finally. I feel like I've spent 3 months inside a tin can. Number 1, I was so close. I just have to remember his face. I've fallen into my own trap. I must question this man.
Yeah, either David Duchovny is not very good at voice acting or just doesn't care, and the sacrifice here is that 13 loses a lot of his personality because of it. He cracks jokes, he's got a lot on his mind since the memories he should have aren't in there. But this game portrays 13 as a stoic, almost silent protagonist, which just isn't him. Instead of an engaging character, we have just a character you play as, and that hurts the storyline they're trying to tell. The reason I care about what's happening in the 13 comics is because I care about 13. Yeah, you are literally controlling 13 in the game, and everyone is telling you how you were fucked over, so you should take it personally. But even in games where the character is just an avatar for the player to project themselves on, they do have a personality. David Duchovny's portrayal just doesn't. Well, I suppose it could be worse. The TV movie has Steven Dorff as 13.
Why you after me, huh?
Why me? Huh? Why me? Huh? Who am I? What is my name?
So, pick your poison, I guess. Oh shit, another Batman. But, back to the plot. You escape the base and head out to the cabin in the photo 13 has, looking to meet the woman standing with 13, Kim. That means we are fully in Volume 2, where the Indian walks. Make that the shallow end of Volume 2 because we're skipping almost all of it. In the comic, 13 goes to meet his possible family as Steve Rowland, because Ben Carrington tells him that's exactly who he is. But when he shows up for the family reunion, it feels empty. The A-plot in this book is mainly about how corrupt this family is and how rotten to the core they truly are. But again, the game skips it, so we meet up with Kim. The game gives us a little more information that's provided later in the comic, so the scene isn't as mysterious. Kim leaves suddenly and we're in the crosshairs of the enemy, just like the comic. Except it's just a few panels of 13 getting arrested as opposed to a small army of assassins trying to kill us. We're caught in an avalanche and by the enemy. In the comic, 13 is convicted of murder, a crime he didn't commit. At least not this time. But despite the difference in stakes, we arrive at the same place. Plain Rock, a maximum security facility and asylum. The set piece for Volume 3, All the Tears in Hell, featuring the corrupt Dr. Edward Johansson, who tortures the inmates daily. The comic is designed to try and break 13, while also progressing the overall ongoing story with Amos's continuing investigation, with important details being revealed. The level, on the other hand, cuts a lot of characters, including Jones for the most part, who gets a great subplot in the comic. The comic is meditative and cruel. Can our hero make it out? Can he prevent the little identity he has from being consumed by the madness spawning from mental and physical torture? The game, however, isn't as meditative. Now, to be completely fair, the game is trying to make you think in this level. Supplies are low, it takes a bit to even get a gun. But while the comic takes a very long time to get to 13's escape attempt in the shower room, the game has him attempt escape almost immediately from that area. There's a lot more gunplay as usual in the game compared to the comic, and Dr. Johansson gets one of the few boss fights in the game, so once you're done with that, 13 escapes without the help of Jones. Differing from the comic, where Jones was very crucial to his escape and survival. There's a desert level that doesn't exist in the comic, and upon completion, we're flying to a Spads camp. As we enter Volume 4, Spads. And quickly exit Volume 4 Spads because most of this doesn't happen. In the comic, 13 is placed by Ben Carrington in a Spads camp. He's undercover until the heat of the prison escape dies down. There he finds some very important information about the conspiracy at play and meets Betty Barnowski, who unknowingly knows a lot about the big conspiracy. She becomes the living evidence they need to stop the plan. Luckily, Jones came in to retrieve 13 from the incognito op, and the trio leaves the camp. Also, the B-plot has Amos still looking into the whole conspiracy. What does the game keep? There's a Spats camp, and that's it! Okay, to be fair, it transfers the undercover nature of the volume into a mostly stealth level. 13 finds out who he might really be.
I got it! Fly! His name was Jason Fly!
And by the end of the section, Carrington and Amos get on the same page. Outside of that, there's nothing. McCall, who's introduced in this volume, is killed entirely differently and too early. The camp doesn't blow up, there's no submarine, and no annoying boss fight with a helicopter that defies physics. In the comic, there is a fight on a helicopter that does explode, but it's not the same though. It's quite unfaithful, but this is my least favorite of the 5 volumes, so it's kind of a welcome change. Now, I will give this volume the benefit of the doubt because I jumped from one translation to another. Marvel only did the first 3 volumes and then stopped publishing 13. Then Cinebook did their own translation with their own volumes. But I'm not too sure about that because of the first 3 volumes have blood-pumping action and intrigue, and then we transition to Volume 4 with a crawl. Anyway, the game. Where are we now? Let's see, there's a hotel level that's not in the book. Then we go to the KKK's estate to listen in on a meeting, and then get to slaughter them. That's not in the book even slightly, but I'm not turning that down. Okay, we're finally back to being faithful to the comic. We've entered Volume 5, Full Red. Unfortunately, we're skipping the international mad dash to DC and anything with Barnowski, and Carrington's arrest was earlier in the game, so give or take, we're left with this much material for the finale. We meet with Walter Sheridan, U.S. Senator, presidential candidate, and brother of the previous president. You know, the dead one. He helps us get into SSH-1 with a disguise. SSH-1 is a secret high command base where the coup, Full Red, will commence. Alright, let's go. We've got Amos and Jones by my side, and wait, who are these people? Yeah, the cast they built up in the comic and game don't take much part in the finale. It's just me, Sheridan, and two characters I've never met. Jones helps out in the final boss fight, but that's nothing. She's got a much bigger part to play in Volume 5! But cutting Jones plots is just a consistent thing with this game, I guess. Okay, let's think positively. The bright side is, this is probably one of the most faithful levels in the game to the comic. I would say almost as faithful as the prison level. Now there are differences for gameplay purposes, of course, but the feeling is still faithful. The President and William Sheridan become prisoners of the Spads. The identity of number 2 is revealed, and he then offs himself, and the building pressure is kept pretty well. Then Stanwell decides he's going to be a boss fight. Huh? Yeah, Stanwell, one of the big conspirators, in the comic, is a wimp. The reason he has an eye patch in the comic is because Carrington uses his eyeball as an ashtray. He's such a coward that he won't take cyanide to die for his racist cause. Fuck him. But since McCall died early, he's gotta be the fight, I guess. Okay, number 2 is dead. Okay, well, that's pretty much the end of the comic, so how does the game go?
Emergency destruction sequence engaged.
Wait, we're still going? What do you mean we're still going?
It's Carrington. We've located Galbrain, but he's out of commission. No one knows the access code for the missile control room. Find him and abort the process. It's your only chance.
God damn it, I guess I don't need that anymore. So we completely diverge from the comics, stop nukes from going off, and fight the mongoose. Not a mongoose, the mongoose. And I know what you're asking. Who's the mongoose? He's an assassin that shows up periodically in the game and the comic, but I skipped him because he's a mysterious footnote in the narrative of these 3 comics. In the comic, he matters because of the pain he caused 13 at the beginning of his journey, and he's an infamous hitman that Amos is looking for. In the game, he doesn't matter. They try to make him matter, but he really doesn't. He spouts out bad dialogue. We kill him. End of final boss. Okay, now that we're finally done, how do these two
As a matter of fact, here he is. Jason Fly, our national hero.
Oh, fucking come on! Yeah, we skipped to events from Volume 8 to set up a sequel that never got made. Unless you count a mobile game that came out in 2007. So, with the game actually done, how does it compare to the comic? Honestly, not the best. Okay, it is not nearly as unfaithful as Bulletproof Monk's adaptation. Carbine White! But there's something missing here. When you're looking at it overall, it gets down the plot beats, but the thing it doesn't get are the characters. Jones is actually a great character. She's a hot badass. She's not just that, though. She's often stoic and no nonsense. She's as faithful to Ben Carrington as a Bond villain's henchman. She's a master in undercover missions, an expert pilot, but most importantly, she's a wonderful foil for 13. He's a man who's locked out of his past, while Jones has infinite access to her past, but won't share a thing about it with anyone. Not even her first name. She's such a great character that recently she earned herself a spin-off trilogy. Another character misinterpreted is Amos. He's not just some dweebish pencil pusher, he's a calm, precise detective. Distinct from the usual man-on-the-run stories where the chaser is often portrayed as a complete obsessive with his target. He doesn't even hate 13, even though he thinks he killed the president initially. He knows there's a bigger plan at play and wants to get ahead of it, hopefully before more damage takes place. The only character I think is done well is Ben Carrington, but there are still parts that are missing from him. A good portion of these comics is Carrington hiding his secret operation with 13. He's trying to get to the bottom of the conspiracy, like Amos, but he's doing it off the books to avoid moles in the government. And that's a challenge. I miss the smaller side characters who get excluded, like Martha from Volume 1. Her story is genuinely touching and sad, and I have gone out of my way not to spoil the ending of it because I genuinely think you should read it. But it's just cut. Instead of complaining for another hour, I'll summarize it like this. This is the last panel from Volume 5. If you play the game, this means nothing. If you read the comic, this means everything. It takes it back to the beginning of the first volume. The very beginning. The conspiracy's coup was averted. Things end pretty well for everyone, but 13 still feels empty. He's a question without much of an answer. He goes back to the shore he washed up on, just taking it in. The kind people that saved him, the needless loss of those people, the friends he's made, the enemies he's destroyed, the lives he's saved. But what now? What do you do after? It's not the big averted missile disaster or twist ending the game goes for. It's calm. It's meditative. And while I genuinely really like this game, I think it misses out on what makes this series special. While the art style in the game is genuinely very impressive and cool, the comics art is absolutely stunning. It can portray action, comedy, and emotion exceptionally. I could see this as an Amazon Prime animated series or Telltale-style adventure game. I don't know if I'd want to see that, because these comics genuinely work on their own, and I'd really suggest reading them. I'm an English speaker and reader myself, so I can only speak on what's been published in English and my perspective. But if you speak English and read English as well, I would suggest tracking down the Marvel trade first. It collects the first 3 volumes in English, and it kind of gives you the best bang for your buck. And then moving on to the Cinebook releases with Volume 4 and 5, and don't worry, they have published Volumes 1 through 3 themselves. It's just, again, bang for your buck right here. They have published the entire series. They are working through the spin-offs right now. I have seen in my research that Cinebook has got some flack for censoring nudity in some of their comics, but I'd never noticed that affecting the story in this series. If you speak another language outside of English, I know that's been translated in several languages, like Spanish, Portuguese, I'm pretty sure, and a ton of other languages. If you're French, you're doing fine. You had 13 published by McDonald's. With that, I hope this video was informative for you, but if I can leave one piece of information before you go, I would say, don't play the 13 remake.